Rolling here at Marketplace North on a Friday afternoon. So that's what I'm drinking. We got to get this show on the road because I need a damn beer. Hey, everybody. It's Kai. Thanks for tuning in to another episode, another happy hour episode, I should say. Something we're calling Economics on Tap. Do us a favor, hit that subscribe button down at the bottom there. You will never miss an episode. Also, tell us what you are drinking. Me, Stone, double IPA. There we go. It's like a finely tuned machine. Hey, everybody, welcome back to Make Me Smart. It is the daily edition on a Friday. We are trying to make today make sense for you. That's what we try to do. Kimberly Adams is here from Hollywood, who is playing hooky. And God bless her. That was such a good thing to do because, man, we all need a break. Kimberly, how are you? Long time
I am
no
fine.
chat.
Thank
like
you.
yesterday.
I know. I hold 24 hours.
All right, so wait. So this is Friday. I'm having a beer. I am having a Stone. Oh, remind me about this later before we go away. I'm having a Stone FML double IPA. It's an unfiltered double IPA, 8.5 ABV. It's quite lovely on a Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock here in Southern California. I heard your ice cubes tinkling. What are you having?
I'm having an old fashioned. I made it with some Four Roses, which
Nice.
the bottle was full at the beginning of all of this, but, you know, as one does.
Well, you know, I've been talking about starting to drink during the week, so, you know, I don't know. We shall see.
That is a healthy thing to not
man.
do.
It is a healthy thing to not do, but sometimes, man, sometimes. Anyway.
Happy Friday.
So Friday
Toast.
is upon us. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. I will toast with my own beer glass. Here we go. There we go. In my can. Okay, what do you like? What do you like as we try to make our way through this coronavirus economy?
I am watching this whole 3M versus the Trump administration thing because
yeah.
of the fights I expected to be having in the midst of, you know, this medical crisis with the mask shortage. Didn't think that we'd be picking a fight with 3M at this particular juncture. But the basic issue is that the Trump administration not only wants 3M to keep its own production of masks all in the United States and not export any to, say, Latin America or Canada, but it also wants 3M to take its production of masks that happen outside of the United States and ship them there. So 3M got an exemption from China's, you know, because China has been blocking these kind of exports for a while. 3M got an exemption from that, is sending some masks our way. Now Canada's like, don't stop shipping us masks. That's really not a cool thing to do. And it's kind of wild because now the Trump administration is threatening 3M, saying that they're going to make them do something else. Who knows?
Yeah, it's remarkable. So it's another instance of the president bullying an American company, right? And this goes back to before he was even inaugurated with the whole Carrier air conditioning thing in Indiana. But it's also, and I think this is the really interesting part, the rising tide of protectionism that has carried over from the trade war and now is in the coronavirus thing, right? It's just the most interesting thing. And it's a real challenge to see how the protectionism that the Trump administration has engendered in its 3 years in office slacks off after this pandemic is done, you know, because they're putting these walls up and they're fracturing these relationships. I mean, come on, we're not sending masks to Canada? Of course, we are tariffing Canadian steel, or we did, so, you know.
But it's also a supply chain story. You know, we've been talking about this throughout the trade war, which, you know, is technically kind of sort of still on, but that these huge American companies are not just American companies anymore. They have massive infrastructure and a big part of their supply chain overseas. And so what 3M is warning the Trump administration, they're like, look, if you do this, other countries are going to do the same thing. And then we will end up with fewer masks overall. And it's not just the protectionism story, it's a supply chain story, and it's also just a wild Trump versus American business story, which
it's amazing, right? And it goes to his lack of understanding of the way this economy works. It's fundamental, and it staggers me every single time.
Well, you know who's been showing up in the White House a lot more is Peter Navarro. We didn't hear from him for a long time. He was sort of on the back burner or not even around, you know, once they decided to play nice on the trade war with China, and all of a sudden he's showing up in the briefing room again.
Right. So just real quick, Peter Navarro, the head of the National Trade Council, he's a China hawk, an extreme trade nationalist, and he's got the president's ear on a bunch of stuff. It's just really, really fascinating. Really fascinating. Okay, I am going, first tip of the hat to Jody Becker, the senior producer of this podcast. who sent me this piece this morning. Airbnb lowers its internal valuation by 16%. So Airbnb, of course, in the hospitality business, hospitality has gotten whacked. Airbnb is still a privately held company, right? It was going to IPO this year, we thought, but now it's not, and that's a separate thing that I'm going to get to in a minute. But Airbnb, which is one of those unicorns, right? It used to be like a 35, 40 billion company, is now, and this is going to sound ridiculous, it's only a $26 billion company. But here's why this matters. Number one, just the straight up valuation of this company that had been gold, right? It had just been printing money because it's a genius idea. But number two, if it's not going to go public this year and the markets are still in turmoil, I think it's going to be a really rocky process for companies who need access to the capital markets to be able to get it. I think, frankly, unless you're like biotech and coronavirus cure and you go public, forget it, right? No interest at all.
But Airbnb was having some problems even before all of this, because all of these cities and towns were just, running out of housing. I mean, you're in California, you know this better than most. And Airbnb was sort of the punching bag du jour for the housing crisis. So, yes, obviously this is from all these coronavirus cancellations and the long-term, how shall I say it, crappy outlook for the travel industry. But I also wonder if this was just sort of the excuse people needed to sort of bail on Airbnb investments.
Yeah, could be. But I think it's yes, for sure. Absolutely. Also an interesting glimpse into what's going to happen in the capital markets. Can I change gears for like 2 seconds? Mm-hmm. Okay. And it's going to be a little bit of a downer, but, that's kind of the way this podcast goes. But then we'll get to the happy place. Mm-hmm. Can I talk about the word depression for a minute?
It's like the psychological kind or the economic kind, even though I already know the answer to this question. Go ahead. The economic kind.
Well, look, I mean, I think we need to start wrapping people's brains around the fact that this recession is going to be brutal, and the idea of an actual depression, right? There's no clinical definition of this, but it's a really bad recession over a long period of time, is not out of the question. And I wonder how you feel about that.
I mean, I agree, because the conversations I've been having with friends and family, because, there was sort of the ramp up to, okay, don't go outside. And that was fine for a bit. And then it's sort of these conversations about, okay, also prepare to stay inside for a long time.
Yeah.
And now the next round of the conversation is the economy isn't going back to normal. What happens next is just going to be different. And when I'm having these conversations with business owners and I ask them what comes after this, they said, well, like a restaurant owner, for example, he said, okay, so let's just say they let us open back up in a month or two, but we have to have 6 feet between all of our tables. Well, we can't make enough money at half or 1/3 capacity to keep our business open. When does Disney World reopen? Like, under what circumstances does that business model work? I mean, even if we get the vaccine in 18 months, like they're talking about, it's going to take a while for everyone to get vaccinated to the point that they don't have to do these things. So just those anecdotal things tell me that there are a million more ripple effects that we're not thinking about. That means it's going to be a lot harder to come back from this. And we are going to be facing a new kind of normal that is going to be a much less vibrant economy that is probably, depression.
Okay. Well, in that case, thank you very much, Kimberly, for coming to the podcast.
Actually, that's really a great segue to the thing that makes me smile, come to think of it.
Okay. Well, in that case, nicely done. Go ahead.
Yes,
you go
good
first.
job. So my grandmother,
Wow. Go grandma. Is she being safe, like washing her hands, staying in, and all that stuff?
Yes, she is. I kind of may or may not have put the fear of God in her at some point a couple of weeks ago, and my sister told me I'm going to hell because of some of the things I told her about the coronavirus.
Oh, no, wait, hold on. So my mother-in-law is 80, hang on, a very quick story. My mother-in-law is 80 years old. My nephew, in other words, her grandson, we all live within 5 miles of each other, right? He got back from Spain about 3 weeks ago, right? Spain, a hotbed of this virus, right? And she had to be just short of physically restrained from going to say hi to her grandson. And I'm like, Ann, are you kidding me?
My grandmother is 93. She was
you
very
go.
set on going to church a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
And
Oh,
I
yeah.
told her some very graphic stories about what was happening in Italy, and that is what made my sister tell me that I'm going to hell. But she
Well,
did not.
church was involved, so you may well be. I don't know.
I know, right? It's one of those things. It was like, I do want you to get your spirituality on, Grandma. However,
Yeah.
just not in a place with more than 10 people.
For sure.
So, but the thing that makes me smile, which is gardening.
Yes.
And I learned the fundamentals of gardening from my grandma and my pop in,
Oh, nice.
Alton, Illinois. And I've always liked gardening. And so a lot of my conversations with my grandma and my friend Ginger back in Missouri and Ginger's mom have been about what we're planting. And so, and also with Nancy Marshall Ginzer via Slack, who's our other Washington reporter.
Your Washington Bureau colleague, yes.
Yeah, we are like in full on gardening mode. And so I was having
so
this
interesting. I didn't know
very
that.
serious conversation with my friend's mom about how I needed to get some bush beans because apparently that will work on my patio.
What are bush beans?
They're green beans that grow on a bush and like keep themselves upright so you don't have to like stake them or attach them to
string a
anything.
vine and all that stuff,
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Gotcha,
yeah.
yeah.
So
Okay.
she was
All right.
going on quite well about these bush beans. I go on the website, they're sold out. And it turns out
Yep.
that seeds are sold out like
Yep.
all over the place because everyone's like, well, if I'm going to hunker down, I got to, homestead
exactly
on
right.
my patio or homestead in my backyard, which is funny because this happened during the Great Recession as well. After the financial crisis, there was a spike in seed sales because I guess people deluded themselves into thinking they can raise enough food in pots and on their patios to feed themselves. But it's a nice activity. It's mentally soothing. What's your thing that makes you smile?
It is. My 12-year-old daughter, we have planted potatoes from potato and
Okay.
also lemons. We got lemon seeds germinating on the counter.
Nice.
And we, too, are back ordered on seeds and also potting soil, by the way. It's like a month to get a bag of potting soil. Anyway.
Wow. Okay.
But yeah, so that's her deal. Mine is a little bit on the news and a little bit goofy. So the National Bobblehead Hall of Fame and Museum in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, is putting out a Dr. Anthony Fauci bobblehead.
Of course they are.
That's it. I just love that so much. It turns out he's wearing a suit and he makes a motion showing how the nation needs to flatten the curve in the coronavirus pandemic. That's it. That's all I got. 80-year-old man, 79-year-old man, runs 3.5 miles a day. He's going to be a bobblehead.
How far do you run?
I run 3.5. I'm working to get up to 6 by the time we get out of quarantine.
Okay.
That's my goal. I got all kinds of fitness goals. We'll see.
All right. Good for you.
That's where we go.
I did yoga yesterday.
Yeah. I think it's really. I think physical activity now more than ever is really important.
Yes.
That's what I got.
Yes,
That's what
I
got.
believe it. It also helps stave off
Okay.
depression.
It does. No, look, it's a mental curative for sure.
Yes.
For sure.
And I have
For
to I have to do this little plug because
What, go.
speaking of mental health care, I actually interviewed my sister for Marketplace Tech, since I'm also filling in on Marketplace Tech.
Yes, you are. In Formali, of course.
Yes, in Formali, because she's a psychologist who works in nursing homes in New York, and we were talking about
Right.
what that's like and how she's trying to integrate telehealth because social distancing and therapy in a nursing home is a real challenging thing.
Wow. So how's it going? I mean, she doing all right?
It's hard because you can't really like not touch a screen when you're trying to hold up a screen to someone for a telehealth thing.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, she's introducing some of these older people to like FaceTime, and so they're able to see family that can't come to visit them, which is she's integrating like FaceTime conversations with family into her therapy sessions, which really makes people feel better. So technology helps.
I think, yeah, there's a bunch of stuff to do actually on mental health in this crisis. I think it's real. Anyway. Okay, we're done for the Daily Show. It's Friday. It's Beer Friday. It's, what are you having in Manhattan? No?
Old
Yes?
fashioned.
Old fashioned. I'm sorry. Anyway, we're back on Monday. I will not be drinking on Monday. Molly might be. I don't know. In the meanwhile, send us your thoughts, questions. Make me smart at marketplace.org. Subject line questions. We'll do those on Wednesdays. It's What Do You Want to Know Wednesdays. And we'll answer as many of them as we can.
All right, Make Me Smart is produced and directed by Sam Anderson. The digital producer is Tony Wagner, and senior producer is Jody Becker. Ben Heathcote is our video producer, and he checked my background to make sure it was okay today.
I have to look, yeah.
And our video intern is Ethan Peretz. And thank you to writer-producer Erica Phillips.
She does newsletters and our little Alexa skill things too. Those are cool. Don't say Alexa, by the way. People will get angry with you. Charlton Thorpe drove the program today. Our theme music was composed by Ben Tolliday and Daniel Ramirez. The executive producer of On Demand is Sitar Nieves. The senior vice president and general manager is Deborah Clark. Come on, it's just funny. Ben Tolliday. I just get a kick out of it.